Hey guys, it's Ihasnotomato here. Welcome back to Ihasnotomato Draws. And first off, before we get into anything, I just want to say right off the bat that once again, sorry that that there's always something at the beginning. Sorry that I might sound a bit echoey or you hear weird background noises. I'm in a different location. It happens sometimes. Yeah, is this the only place I can record today? But yeah, anyway, so today we're doing something a little bit different. Today we're actually drawing something that I made for another video, which was my last video, which would be my coverage of a heavy update, as it's called, which was the original heavy update back in 2008. And what I've been doing for that series is I've decided that I wanted to do this thing where I make like a little movie poster for it. I just had like as a title card. I don't use it as the thumbnail or anything like that. But it's just a little bit of fun. I did it for the Pyro one as well, where actually I adapted one of my already made works and just kind of turned it into a movie poster thing. But I really like that idea and I decided to continue it. And I decided that with this video, I would kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, and you know, show the drawing process of making that. And this is, of course, if you haven't seen the video, it's just what it is like supposed to be an image of the heavy reaching into a fridge to grab the sandwich. Because, of course, the sandwich was added in the heavy update. Ugh, got a bit of a frog in my throat. I'm a little bit annoyed as well because I actually did record like half of this video already and I had some good shit that I said. And then a plane flew over top and it just kind of ruined the whole thing. Oh well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm just doing a bit of positioning here and just getting it all ready and right. And so what I'm doing here, so I thought what I talk about in this episode is a little bit about sort of what not to do in terms of perspective. Now, if you don't know what perspective is, it's essentially what makes things look like they have depth and that they're based in reality, I guess you could say. You know, say you're looking down a hallway, you know how you can see the whole hallway and essentially like it's shrinking in front of your eyes. That's perspective in a sense. That's a bad way of explaining it, but yeah. And what I'm actually using here is a thing called 2-point perspective where it's got two vanishing points, you know. One in the left direction, one in the right direction. That's why, say, that these are leaning off to the left while the other ones are leaning off to the right, the words. Anyway, normally in perspective, or at least if you want to make it look, you know, proper, what you'd do is you'd actually have proper set vanishing points at either end, and you would send all your lines towards those vanishing points. And, you know, if you want to make it look really professional, you'd use a ruler or something like that. But I decided not to do that. In this, instead, I decided just to play it by eye, essentially, and I'm just kind of guessing everything. Which, you know, doesn't necessarily, like, fail or anything like that. I mean, I've done it before, and, like, a lot of more professional artists will do that, you know. You know, just do it by eye, and, well, in fact, I do it all the time, actually. But it's just a sort of, like, if you want to have, like, a really proper, better effect, you know, you should probably do it more professionally, I suppose you could say. But I decided against it because, you know, I like the fluidity of it, of just having, you know, of just drawing in my lines and kind of guessing, and sometimes I get it like quite right. It makes me feel good. The other challenge that I decided to face myself, which was, you know, almost regrettable, was the fact that not only was I trying to draw this like text in perspective without proper you know, perspective tactics, I was also trying to draw it in the style of the TF2 font, kind of. So it made things even a little bit more difficult because the TF2 font is really interesting because like some sides of letters are like thicker than others, and that's kind of hard to really like kind of show off. And you know, you got those E's that are weirdly shaped and stuff like that. So it was a challenge, but you know, I think that after I did this, which was like I lowered those letters in size, and I thought they looked kind of bad, but I think they looked better after I did this, and I kind of, you know, made them look more all on the same level. But you know, it worked out relatively well, I think. One of the things I forgot to mention as well, you notice that big heavy hand as my reference on the side there. I actually took that myself. I went into Gary's mod, of all things. I know most people use Source Filmmaker. I used Gary's mod because I'm an old person. And I took that myself because, you know, like, even though most of, like, because I, normally, you know, with my references, I just need you know, like just to see what the characters look like or whatever, because I'm not drawing from anything I can really do too much about. But in this particular situation, I wanted a very particular look, so I decided to just go and take my own reference for me, you know, and that's something, you know, I do actually quite often with my other pieces, but haven't actually gotten to this point. But yeah, I actually had another reference piece next to me on my iPad that I was referring to, which was, I actually have a physical sandwich in real life, like a, you know, plastic one that you can buy for an unreasonable amount, and you get a in-game robo sandwich. But that's completely irrelevant. But yeah, I have that, and I actually took that, and that's like what the angle I'm referring to, and that's how I know that there's all these bloody tomatoes and stuff. And I also had like the text set on top of it to help me get a vague idea of how I wanted the perspective and stuff to look. My god, the sandwich is absolutely filled with so much stuff. It's actually kind of really fun to draw. It's quite mesmerizing. One strategy you might have seen me use as well a lot, which was I kept flipping the image just to help me with lines. I mean, that's essentially it. So I would flip it to the side because I'm apparently incompetent at drawing proper lines from you know, horizontally instead. I got to do it vertically. So that's just why I occasionally like flipped it there, just to give you a bit of, you know, context as to why I do things, methods of madness. Now here I'm drawing the heavy's hand in the background, and I gotta tell you, first off, drawing hands in general is not the easiest thing in the world. You know, I'll be the first to tell you that. I've gotten better at drawing hands because I've like practiced and learned and like studied. But there's a couple of hints I can give you. First off, this is not related to this picture at all. But you know that old saying that like, hey, if your hand is bigger than your face, you have cancer. And then people put their hand up to their face. But you know, if you actually do put up your hand to your face, you have cancer. No, actually, what it is you'll find that your hand is almost as big as your face. And that's the number one thing that a lot of people struggle with, is when you're drawing hands with a full body, you will find that you will be drawing the hand too small. You know, that's a generalization, but it's a very, very common one. You know, it's like, why don't my hands look right? You know, I used a reference and everything, and they just don't look right. Are they too small? You know, refer back to the face that you might have drawn, or you should draw by that point, I guess, if you're drawing a human. And then see, is it the same size? Is it smaller or larger? You know, always, in most cases, it's larger that you want to go for. You want to make it a bit bigger. And that's a really, really helpful tip. But anyway, that's not related to this image. Instead, so what I'm doing in this image, so there's a bit of foreshortening going on, which is essentially perspective, except more referred to hands and poses and stuff like that, where, you know, poses closer to the screen and things like that. With a hand pose, but additionally I'm using, of course, the heavy's hand. And the reason I really needed a reference for the heavy's hand is because the heavy has hands like a bloody homunculus. They're bulbous, they're huge, and they're like, he's got giant fucking sausages for fingers. I was referring to Shrek there, actually. But like, it's seriously, like, the heavy's hand is, you know, disproportionate at best, and it's like square but not really, and it's like, my god, it was a challenge. So I really hope it kind of came out like decently well in this, in the final version. But and I think it did. As soon as I got those colors right, the colors are also like really like confusing because I made the mistake of having him shrouded in darkness, so I had to try and get some color references where I could. But yeah, so that's just what I mean. There are all these kind of things that you really got to take into consideration, you know, beforehand. And I did this time. I've been better at, like, with these videos to go, okay, I got to figure out what I'm going to draw like days ahead of time, and I got to draw some like concepts for them, so I can figure out like how I'm going to lay them out. So like, you know, what I did like, I'd say almost like, oh, actually, geez, like two weeks ago I actually conceptualized this image in my notebook, and figured out what I wanted to do for it. You don't have to do it that far in advance. I was just thinking about it that far in advance. Yeah, so I drew the sandwich just before I finished coloring it. And I gotta say, the sandwich is like mesmerizing. It's really fun to just draw and make shiny, and it's actually almost like, you know, making me wish I could have a sandwich. I can't eat sandwiches anymore because I'm gluten free because I got celiac. And it's one of those things, you know, they say, you know, you don't know how much you'll miss something until it's gone, and sandwiches were definitely up there. I really do miss them. Well. Even to this day, I've been celiac for like, I don't know, it feels like 2 years or something now. Maybe a year and a half, I'm not quite sure. And, I still want a sandwich. Anyway, I'm putting in some lighting and some shadow and stuff, and it's kind of difficult to do because with a refrigerator, there's kind of light everywhere, I guess. So I just kind of like made a general mid-tone light. So I get, like I said, I get some questions that people asking me, like, you know, hints about lighting and stuff like that, and shading. This is a bad example of it because I'm doing a very general light. There's different kinds of light, right? So you got like a direct light, so it's like a spotlight kind of thing, or it's like, or like a, you know, one directional thing, so it's all coming from one angle. It's more like when you're usually if you're using like the sun as a light source. But this is sort of like a general all over the place light, as the interior of a fridge tends to be. But I could give you one very helpful hint of advice, which is just like, really, if you're trying to think about how you're going to do your lighting, consider where your light source is. Just think about where it is, and if you really like have trouble like remembering where it is, maybe just draw like a little like happy sun in the corner and keep referring back to that. So what you do then is pretty much anything that's like up against where, like in facing the direction of your light source, maybe give it a little bit of a highlight on the edge, and then everything that's like on the other side of it where the light source isn't shining from, you know, just then that's when you do your shading. And I've been told that's, you know, relatively helpful advice, so hope that kind of works. So here I was adding in a bit of like a fadey kind of darkness effect, just trying to give the impression that like it's all the lights just being coming out of the fridge, like it's sort of like he's coming in at the middle of the night or whatever to grab the sandwich. I'm trying to give like a cool lightness as well, and then the red back there is to kind of give the impression of his actual, like the rest of his arm kind of fading into darkness. Does that make sense? But anyway, there's the finished piece. You know, I was like relatively happy with it. You know, I'd say that it did its job, but probably nothing more. One thing I was a little bit annoyed about was the fact that I forgot to make the size of the page like widescreen. It's like it's just A4 on side, so it didn't quite fit. So I like this is what I did. I made the background all like I made like a black blur around it, and then like a circular shape, and then kind of had the rest like that. And I think it works decently well. And then in like Photoshop, I added in a couple extra effects. Like I like that little that text at the bottom there, that little movie kind of text thing, and the date, because I like the idea of having like, this is when the movie comes out, and that's actually when the update came out. I don't know. Anyway, so this has been another Ihasnotomato Drawers. Just a little insight into, I guess, a slightly more, I don't want to say professional work, because it's not professional at all. It's more just like, you know, just a tie-in to, like, I guess more of an insight into, I don't know, when I draw things for my channel, I guess. But yeah, anyway, I have been Ihasnotomato, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.